bass, getting in place. What do you get? Say, magic, zoom room, cosmic zoom, SMJ, and Sonic Boom.
Sonic Warrior, Sonic Warrior.
You are what you need out of 10. You got the power to save the land.
Take a little chance, slip on through. You got smart no matter what you do. You gotta do for you.
Sonic Warrior, Sonic Warrior.
The power is in your mind to save the planet, to conquer Taya. Sonic Warrior, be decisive time. Sonic Warrior, flavor in your mind. Nothing can survive the way you stay like. 'Cause if we try, you can do anything.
Sonic Warrior,
Always is a chance.
Sonic Warrior.
Never say they can't. Nothing can survive the way you stay like. 'Cause if we try, you can do anything.
Well, hey there, welcome on into VG Emporium, video game music and more. I'm your host, Rage Cage, and today we got us another batch of special orders, which, if you're relatively new to the show, a special order is a song request, which, once I get enough of them, like, 5 or more, I'll do its own dedicated episode. Though it seems to be that I'm doing them every 10 episodes, because you'll notice this is Special Orders 13, and this is episode 131, but that pattern could change if I start getting more special orders in from a wider range of folks. So if you'd like to put an order in, you can send it on over to vgemporium@gmail.com, or join the Discord where there is a special order channel. So you'll find both the email and the link to the Discord in the show notes. So now getting into it, we opened up with Sonic, You Can Do Anything, which this is the opening song for the Japanese version of Sonic CD, composed by Masafumi Ogata, with vocal performance from Keiko Utoku, with the lyrics written by Rankin, who also provided additional vocals that you're hearing right now. And this was ordered in by crazygoji, who is a crazy good digital fusion musician as well as a fellow chiptunist, and I'll be linking all the places that you can find his music. Definitely check it out. And yeah, there seems to be not a special orders episode that goes by without a Sonic track in it, which probably means that I'm not featuring it enough on the show and the masses demand it. So maybe a Sonic Hedgehog Zone Act 2 is in order. So now, speaking of Sonic CD, that's a game. Interesting one, huh? Big sprawling levels, time mechanics, while still retaining that style of Sonic 1 and 2. And of course the music, which is mostly CD quality Red Book audio, which for the most part carries over that sound that was established in the first 3 Sonic games, and Knuckles, but also being its own thing. And this song, as well as the opening animation, just tells you that you're in for a ride. What with that rockin' guitar, the snappy drums, the crazy snare rolls, and those orchestra hits. You can't forget the orchestra hits. And I really like what I can only describe as that glunky bass. And then of course the cherry on top, that is the vocals, which is a total contrast to what we got in North America, which is, how to put it, not as energetic or fun as this. Which could also be said for the majority of the North American soundtrack. It all has kind of like this darker tone, new agey sound, which definitely fits the kind of the theming of the future versions of stages. That's not to say it's bad. It's good in its own way. It's just that it was really off-putting once, compared to past Sonic music, and this did not sound like Sonic, but, it kind of grew on me eventually. But once I did discover the Japanese version of the soundtrack and this opening, I was like Sylvester Stallone in Demolition Man when they first go into that, underground sewer city, and he's smelling it, and he's just like, oh yeah! Oh yeah! And that's the second time in little over a month that Demolition Man has been mentioned on VG Emporium. Go watch it if you haven't already. It's a stupid fun movie. So thank you crazygoji for ordering this one in. And now we'll get into the next order here. This one coming in from Professor Tom, host of Shujin Academy VGM Club. And he ordered in Name Entry and Car Menu from Ferrari Grand Prix Challenge, composed by Neil Baldwin. and that was Name Entry and Car Menu from Ferrari Grand Prix Challenge, composed by Neil Baldwin and special ordered in by Professor Tom, who again is the faculty sponsor for the Shujin Academy VGM Club. And so when I was initially listening to this before I saw who actually composed it, I was feeling like this was a David Wise thing because it sounded very similar to some of David Wise's NES's music that I remember from Captain Skyhawk and Cobra Triangle. But then seeing that it was Neil Baldwin, I was like, alright, that makes sense. He's definitely up there in that echelon of Western composers that knew how to make 8-bit sound chips sing, especially the NES's 2A03. And yeah, definitely the rest of the soundtrack has that crazy energy of a full-on NES track. A lot of arpeggios, single-channel echoes, duty cycle just going crazy, and then of course the triangle channel doing double duty of bass and percussion, with the noise channel accentuating those beefy thumps. And yeah, even though this track is a lot more mellowed out compared to the rest of the soundtrack, it's still using a lot of those same techniques. So thank you, Professor Tom, for ordering this one in. And for you folks, if you haven't listened to his podcast yet but would like to, you can find it linked in the show notes. Alright, getting into our next order here, this is coming in from J-Look. This is Mirage Planet, Michelangelo's stage, from TMNT Tournament Fighters on the Sega Genesis, and this was composed by Miki Higashino. and that was Mirage Planet, Michelangelo's stage, from TMNT Tournament Fighters on the Sega Genesis, composed by Miki Higashino. And this was special ordered in by J-Look, who, if you had listened to Gems Jams 2, was one that suggested a lot of the tracks that I featured on that episode. A fellow Gems appreciator indeed. And he actually has a YouTube channel where he features a lot of the arrangements he does, as well as just VGM he's ripped. It's under J-Looky, J-L-O-O-K-I, and you can't miss it because the channel picture is the hummingbird from Colibri. And on it he shares arrangements of VGM he's done using the Sega Genesis sound chips, as well as oscilloscope views of Sega Genesis, and 32X VGM. And even though I said this to you in Discord, again, congratulations on your first original track, which he did for the Battle of the Bits, Raw Gems Battle, which was really good for a first original track, and I look forward to hearing more original stuff from you. But what he ordered in is definitely not gems. Nope, this is just some awesome FM synthesis run through whatever crazy driver Konami was using for their Sega Mega Drive Genesis titles at the time. And I can confidently say that this soundtrack is definitely my favorite over the SNES version of this game. Not only because this is the version that I owned as a kid, but also just because the sound design in this, the soundtrack is just amazing. That's not to say I don't like the SNES version. I mean, that one's bombastic, crazy, just wacky all over the place. It's just that, yeah, I'm an FM head, so that, the Sega Genesis one definitely wins me over. But in regards to everything else, the SNES version is definitely the superior one. And I know there's an NES version, and I haven't played it. I can imagine that, a fighter on the NES, probably not all that great, but the music for that game, though, I've listened to, and it is definitely an interesting evolution of Konami's NES sound. Now, getting back to this track, I can definitely say that it is my favorite of the soundtrack, not only because it is Michelangelo's theme, which, he's my favorite turtle, but also because it's just so different from the rest of the soundtrack, where it's like, kind of rocky or has that funky sound. Just has this really cool kind of like spacey feel to it. It's something, again, you would think it would be linked to Donatello possibly, and then something like Ray Filet's theme would be Michelangelo's, but nope, Mikey's got the cool theme. So when I finally found a way to listen to the soundtrack years ago, this is the first song I went to. So thank you, J-Look, for ordering this one in. Now moving back into the realm of 8-bit, we have an order from Jam Virtuattak, this being BGM number 8, possibly 4, from NHL Blades of Steel on the Game Boy Color, composed by Matthew Simmonds. That was BGM number 8 from NHL Blades of Steel, composed by Matthew Simmonds, special ordered in by Jam Virtuattak. And I'm going to note here that this is labeled under different BGMs. So on YouTube, it's BGM number 8, but on KH Insider, it's BGM number 4. It would have been cool if it had a title to kind of help clear up this mess, but in the case of most Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance tracks, even DS, they don't have any track names at all, or at least they couldn't find any. They're always under like BGM number or track number. And yeah, this is a really cool track, using some of those tricks that were featured in that Ferrari Grand Prix track. We got some single channel echo, some duty cycle modulation going on, and it sounds like one of those square channels being used for both bass and percussion, with the noise there for the assist. And of course, can't forget about that indispensable tool of Western composers composing on these 8-bit sound chips, the arpeggio. Now, this is the first time I've heard the name Matthew Simmonds, though it sounds like I'm going to have to look more into his work, because, again, this is some really good stuff, which is, of course, no surprise because it's a sports game. Sports games seem to have always like the craziest good music. Now, as far as this game goes, I watched some gameplay footage of it, and it looks like absolute chaos. It's just little tiny guys on an ice rink going around with an arrow flashing over their heads, and just a lot of knocking down and occasional brawls, and it's hockey. I personally never got into hockey. I can see why people do get into it because there's a lot of action going on, just like constant back and forth, and of course the fights that'll break out occasionally. And honestly, when I was a kid, that's most of what I heard about hockey was just the fights that would happen, and of course, the Mighty Ducks. Yes, both movies. There was a third. No, that's just about as believable as there being an animated series. Oh wait. Oh, anthropomorphic space ducks. Right. Well, anyway, thank you, Virtuattak, for ordering this awesome track in and giving me a new composer to look into. And now we're getting into a special order from Martyrus, who is the host of ReVGM Video Game Music Podcast, and, as his MO, he has ordered in a chiptune arrangement of a song, this being The King of Speed, Genesis Dual PCM Remix, which is a remix of The King of Speed from Daytona, USA, composed by Takanobu Mitsuyoshi, and the remix done by Supper E1. Now, before getting into the track, I'd like to note the quality of this audio. There's some distortion going on. The only version that I could find was the one on YouTube. They didn't upload it anywhere else with a higher quality, or the Furnace Tracker module, or the .vgm. So you're gonna hear that watery, warbly distortion kind of popping in every once in a while. and that was the King of Speed Genesis Dual PCM remix, which is an arrangement of the King of Speed Rolling Start from Daytona USA, composed by Takanobu Mitsuyoshi and remixed by Separate E1. And this is special ordered in by Martyrs, host of ReVGM, which is a podcast that focuses on rearrangements, remixes, and reimaginings of video game music, and another one of the 2022 VGM podcast bros. And his podcast also goes weekly and is a couple episodes behind my count. So again, if you're new to VG Emporium and are just now learning about ReVGM, you have about 260 episodes of backlog to enjoy between us. And so now getting into this remix, first thing I'll point out is definitely the leads that are replacing the vocal samples from the original track. Definitely captures that vibrato that Takanobu could do, as well as the kind of like the vibrato that happens with the looping of that vocal samples when they're being held. Go listen back to the original arcade version and you'll immediately hear what I'm talking about. Especially at the beginning when it's doing the rolling start bit, you know, rolling start! And of course you gotta do it again, rolling start! It's important you get that vibrato in there. And unfortunately, I couldn't do that fade out with my own voice, otherwise I'd break myself up, so I did it cheating with the volume levels here. And yeah, I really like this remix. It's really well put together, and then of course, as the title says, dual PCM remix. It is something that the Sega Genesis sound chip is capable of only through like a special driver, only used in one game as far as I know, which was Skitchin'. But now thanks to the ever-evolving tool that is Furnace Tracker, it allows you to use this mode with ease alongside all the other cool tricks the YM2612 was capable of, such as the special Channel 3 mode, which takes the third FM channel and splits it into 4, which each one of those corresponds to each operator of that channel, which is something all the chips in the OPN family are capable of, and the CSM mode, which was basically speech synthesis. But yeah, dual PCM, that's why you're hearing more percussion samples than you normally would in a Sega Genesis track. And yeah, like I said, this is really well put together. I really like the arrangement, like I said, the choice of patches. But now let me tell you, their original music is on a whole nother level, which most looks to be made in Furnace Tracker, and they don't only limit themselves to the Sega Genesis. They're using all the different sound chip combinations there. I've seen OPZ, Virtual Boy, even Tildero's own sound unit, which Tildero is the name of the one that created Furnace Tracker. But yeah, back to Separate E1, it looks like they largely upload to YouTube, and they uploaded a lot of stuff last year, but this year they've kind of been at a slow drip. The last thing they uploaded was like 6 months ago. And now I'm a little upset at myself that I haven't discovered them until now, so thank you, Martyrs, for bringing them into my attention. And thank you for this special order. And so now this brings us to the last order of the day, this one coming from Pocket Eteleri. And it looks to be another mashup of two tracks that are the same but have differences, making for another 5-minute epic. So this is Credits Full version, which is a combination of the 50 and 100cc credits and the 150cc and mirror match credits from Mario Kart DS, composed by Shinobu Tanaka. credits, full version, which is a combination of the 50 and 100cc credits and the 150cc and mirror match credits from Mario Kart DS, composed by Shinobu Tanaka, and this is special ordered in by Pocket Ellery. Now I'm going to say something that may come as a surprise or may not. I'm mostly nostalgic for the original Super Mario Kart soundtrack. I of course did play some of Mario Kart 64, but I just don't have much memories of the music on that one. And I know a lot of it is like very nostalgic for many, especially Rainbow Road. And I haven't really heard much of all the other Super Mario Kart's music, especially the DS one. What I have heard of the newer stuff, there's just this very particular sound, like this whistle, that I just don't like. Yeah, but I understand that it is really good music. It's just not for me. But it was really cool to see in the comments of the YouTube video where this song is from, just all the people saying that they remember playing this game, and when they got these credit themes, that they actually would like kind of shed tears and kind of cry because it was just so emotional for them. Like, sounds so good, and I can get that. Like the way how this sounds is, I could see myself like being like, whoa, like this piece of music hitting me as like a teen or a kid. So it was pretty neat to kind of get a glimpse into their nostalgia, because as I said many times before, I never owned a DS, but if I did, I might have played this game and maybe really liked it. But no, at the time, I was a PSP guy. But yeah, this song, or I should say songs, are really good. It definitely lacks those elements that I don't care for in a lot of the Super Mario Kart music I've been hearing lately. And sounds like a very well-deserved congratulations for like completing some, I'd imagine, some really tough races. I could probably really say that more so for the second half of the song, or I should say the second half of the 100cc credits, because the energy that picks up there was kind of caught me off guard. It kind of got me like, what am I listening to, Neo Turf Masters? Well, maybe not that bombastic, but still, like, the samples being used here definitely reminded me of Neo Turf Masters, the way how that sounds. But yeah, what this song is telling me is that I should probably give the later releases of Super Mario Kart games soundtracks, a second chance, or at least find the tracks in there that I may like, and stay away from the ones that have that particular sound that I don't. So thank you, Pocket Ellery, for ordering this one in, and thank you to everybody else for placing in their special orders. It was a pretty interesting and surprisingly enlightening batch, and I'm definitely looking forward to what you order in next. And if anybody else listening will want to send a special order in again, you can do that by sending it to vgemporium@gmail.com, or joining the Discord, which is linked in the show notes, and putting it in the special orders channel. And once I get enough and it's ready to come out, you can listen to it wherever you're listening to it right now, but there's also all these other places you can listen to it, are Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube and YouTube Music, and then all the other podcast services that pull from those feeds. And then, of course, there's TerraPlayer, which is a hub for all kinds of different video game-related podcasts. Or you can listen to it directly at the source, vgemporium.wordpress.com. And then, of course, you can follow VG Emporium on all the different social media, such as Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And then, of course, I, your host, Rage Cage, you can follow me on all those different social medias, where I'm usually sharing music I've been working on, because I am currently doing weekly beats, so I'm putting out one song every week. And it's been a pretty fun time, so I'd like to thank you all for coming into VG Emporium, video game music and more, and hope you decide to come in next week.